All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're exploring a pretty radical idea, that the descendants of the enslaved here in America aren't a displaced people at all, but an entirely new one, born right on this soil with a completely unique spiritual and moral blueprint.
This sentence right here, this is the heart of everything we're going to talk about. It's a declaration that shifts the entire conversation from one about displacement to one about creation. So let's really unpack what that means. So the first big idea really flips a common narrative on its head. It argues that the transatlantic slave trade didn't just, move a population from one continent to another. No, it was the crucible that actually forged an entirely new people. Think about it with this Haitian analogy. We don't say Africans in Haiti, do we? We say Haitians. And that's not just playing with words. It's a recognition of the birth of a new, sovereign people from a specific land and a specific struggle. One is just a description. The other is a true identity.
So what this framework is saying is that this experience created a whole new ethnic group, one that's native to America. Their unique languages, their music, from the blues to jazz to hip-hop, these aren't just imports. They are cultural products born directly from American soil. And this leads to a really nuanced idea of what it means to be native. This isn't a claim to indigenous political sovereignty. It's something different. It's a claim of being native by right of creation on this land.
This soil and fence analogy illustrates the concept brilliantly. Think of your ethnicity as the soil you're grown in. The national identity, that's the fence around the soil. But the ancient seeds, that's the moral and spiritual code, that's what determines the character of the life that grows there.
Okay, so this new identity, born from American soil, is the vessel. It's this unique container, this specific cultural and historical reality that was created right here and literally nowhere else in the world. But what's inside the vessel?
And that brings us to the essence of it all. The argument here is that while the vessel was forged in America, its soul, its moral operating system, is actually rooted in an ancient African framework, specifically the philosophy of Ifa.
The foundational concept here is Iwa, which is Yoruba for character. Now in Ifa, morality isn't just some list of rules. It's about embodying good character. This is the absolute central pillar of who you are.
And this leads to this amazing idea of Iniyan. Being human isn't just a biological fact, it's a moral status you have to achieve. You become Iniyan, the specially selected one, by actively choosing to bring good into the world. It's an active choice, it's not a given.
Let's use an analogy to make this a little more concrete. A radio station. The hardware, the physical box, that's like your ancestry or your circumstances. But what truly defines the station? It's the frequency it broadcasts on. That's your character, your Iwa, and the music? Well, that's the soul you put out into the world.
I mean, think about it. A listener doesn't care about the metal and plastic of the radio. They care about the music. In this framework, your true identity is the character you project, the good you choose to bring into the world, not the circumstances of your vessel.
So this spiritual framework doesn't just redefine identity, it completely reframes reality itself, and that includes how we understand healing. It proposes a kind of radical new geometry for wellness.
This is a huge paradigm-shifting question. The Western model tells us to look for the disease inside the person, but this perspective asks us to look at the environment, at the space itself. So instead of seeing sickness as a problem within the body, the Ifa view sees it as a disturbance in the space around the body, which then shows up physically. So the goal isn't just to cure the person, but to heal the space, to restore balance to the entire environment.
Here's another really powerful analogy to help explain this. Imagine you're trying to tune an instrument inside a big concert hall. The individual, that's like the strings of a violin. Western medicine focuses on tuning those strings perfectly. But if the concert hall itself has terrible acoustics, if the geometry of the space is off, the music will always sound wrong. This framework argues you have to fix the room, the environment, before the instrument can ever sound true.
Okay, so we've defined a new people, a moral essence, and a different view of reality. But what's the ultimate purpose of reclaiming this identity? Where does this all lead?
For too long, the history of the hunt has been told only by the hunter. The whole point of this self-definition is to become the historian for the lion, to assert a narrative that is sovereign, permanent, and absolutely fundamental.
At its core, this framework is a tool for liberation.
It's a declaration of narrative independence. It's about dismantling that old hierarchy, where one group is the universal standard and everybody else is just a chapter in their story.
And that leaves us with a final, really powerful question to consider. What happens to our world, to our relationships, to our own sense of self, when we decide that our ultimate identity isn't defined by the vessel we live in or the history that created it, but by the moral character we choose to broadcast into the world every single day?